No coughing this week. We're live. We're late, but we're live. Sorry about that, everyone. It's 10 after, and I'm just getting on here because we were at a party, and I was partying. So I'm going to wait for people to jump in here. There's no one in here, babe. There's two. How do I have two thumbs up, and it says there's no one's watching? Oh, wait. I like that I get a notification that I'm live. There's everybody. All right. Now it says 18 people. What's up, everyone? I'm sorry that I'm late. I apologize. I was at a children's party, and so we were like, it's hard to get out. I only said goodbye to two people, I think, too. And then I was like, I just slink out of there real slick. So people go, hey, where did the Reynolds go?
Oh, just like you do for school meetings, huh?
I do that for school meetings, yes. I don't really like school meetings. Sometimes I pretend I'm on the phone, and then I just leave. Anyway. So I see everybody in here. Look, so are you ready? All right. So here's the gig. If you don't know, I'll do my little spiel. My name is CJ Reynolds. I run this YouTube channel. It's called Real Rap with Reynolds. And the whole idea behind this, the mission behind what we're doing here is to help teachers be, if not the greatest teacher in the world, to move the needle in that direction. And then over time, you become the greatest teacher in the world, right? No one gets abs overnight. Maybe, how's that? There you go. There's a bumper sticker for you. Nobody gets abs overnight. So we do this thing on Sunday nights because Sunday night is the most terrifying night for most teachers. And I'm going to take any of your questions. So I'm not the only one answering questions. If you drop your questions in here, Unicorns Rock might help you out, or my man Tall Tal. What's up in there with the rhymes? So all these folks that are in here will help you with your questions as well. So go ahead and ask any question that you want. If this is not enough, we have a Facebook group, the Real Rap with Reynolds Teacher Talk Facebook group that you can join into. You can also join, what else? There's Upgrade Ed, which is online professional development. There is mentoring available. I can come speak at your school. I was out at, what was that school? It was Adams, but I forget what the school name. We were at Ed Camp Adams yesterday. Not So Secret Wife went with me. So it was really, really fun. It was like maybe 100 teachers in the room. And I had to boil my talk down to 30 minutes, which is not easy when I'm used to doing an hour. And I just felt like it went well, and I got to meet like a lot of really great people. So if anyone was there yesterday, like, so awesome. Like, I'm glad that you can make it out. It was New Oxford Road or something. New Oxford? I don't know. It's out near Gettysburg.
Terrible. We need to start remembering names.
I know. I can't even remember regular things like people's names. How am I supposed to remember names of schools?
Oh, someone asked, how do I join those groups? If you're talking about the Facebook group, you just go onto Facebook and search Real Rap with Reynolds Teacher Talk.
Yeah. And you'll see it. And it's a closed group. So you have to answer like 3 questions to get in. But that's really just so we can vet and make sure that someone's not a company. Someone's not like going to be in there trying to push their stuff, which is what I don't want.
It's just for education.
Yeah. And there like aren't like parents in there like trying to, like, the parents are looking for you in there trying to find out what you're talking about. It's really just a place for teachers to talk about teacher-y kind of stuff because no one understands teachers like teachers do. You ready? Mm-hmm. Here's my idea this week. I'm going to try and not have short question, long answer, because I realize that there's like only first 10 minutes that people put questions in, sometimes 15 minutes tops we get to. So I want to try and get through more questions this week. So I'll try and keep my answers short and concise. And I'm not trying to just like blow them off, but just so you know that's my idea. So Donnie DiCaprio is asking, Mr. Reynolds, Donnie, do you have any neat trick to stop a classroom fight without jumping in between? Look, I do, but they're dumb. So it's like you could try it, but if it goes wrong, I'm not sure what that would look like.
It can go wrong.
You don't think so?
Dumb.
I think
it's so off.
I do a couple of things. One, I pretend I'm recording kids, right, with my phone, and I go, "Are you guys going to fight? Because I get more views on YouTube if you fight." And that, like, because and here's my other idea, and I'm going to tell you why I do this. The other idea is I have on my desktop queued up, I have like the link that I click on, it goes right to YouTube, and it plays Glory of Love by Peter Cetera in Chicago. He might have been solo on that one, which is the love song from Karate Kid 2. Because nobody can fight when love jams are playing, because it just makes a joke out of it, right? Or play like adventurous music over top of it, like, all right, in a world where like two kids are about to battle it out. Because my real thought is that most students that are about to fight don't want to fight, especially boys. There's all this posturing beforehand, right? We're going to talk and talk and talk and talk and go ahead. What you can do, hit me. What you can do, hit me. And it's like, if you really wanted to hit someone, you would have just friggin' hit them already. So with that in mind, the idea is to like provide the out for the students when they are at that height of that moment. And it like just changes their psychology. So that's what I do. And it works every single time. Like I never have fights in my room because I always put on Glory of Love. And I'm like, if you guys want to fight while there's love jams on, I don't think you can do it. Psychologically, I think Peter Cetera gets in your head and can't do it. So that's my answer. Johnny Chingas is asking, what's up, Johnny? I see you on here all the time. Do you have any students that also became teachers? I do. So one of my favorite students, Donovan has a YouTube channel, but I forget what it's called. He has an Instagram. What is it called?
Go look it up.
You're going to look it up? Cool.
Smalls Education. Or something?
He's awesome. Donovan was in my first year of teaching, became a teacher. And then my other guy, Akil Danzler, is in school now to be an educator. And then Cephas from last year, who was always on Big Guy Little Car with me and on Instagram, wants to be a special education teacher. And they're all like the most gentle, wonderful souls.
_fellow.
Yeah. So my man Donovan, if anyone wants to follow him, just because he's a good dude and he does great stuff. This is him right here.
He does crazy eclectic stuff and weird.
Oh, he's super weird. That's why I love him so much. He was like, when we filled Marley's bedroom up with 300 balloons one time, as a surprise, like while she was sleeping, as a surprise on her birthday, I put out the call to anyone, and Donovan was like, I'll 100% come over and help with this activity. And he did. He went to Miami with me to a conference last year. He's great. What you got, dude? All right, next. We're doing good. We're 3 in already. I feel like we're cooking here. Kristen Ivanova. I've seen you on here as well. And if I don't want to say that to everyone because then someone's going to be like, he didn't say it to me. Actually, I don't think they would do that. But what do you do when your teaching team is not on the same page on how you feel to deal with student behaviors? I feel like we're a mom and dad and have way different standards. Our 9th graders are so bad. So I think that's really interesting because I'm on something like, I have like co-teacher number 7 with me right now. And what I've learned is in all that, because I've had a lot of teachers that do not get down like I get down. Like I've had teachers that like just were adamantly get like appalled at the things I said and did in class. Like they just thought like silliness was not a part of class. You shouldn't be funny. You shouldn't do like any of that. And that was a bummer for me because that's like my jam. And so I've had other people that would like make fun of the kids and like I had one guy that slept in the back of the class, would wake up, bother people and get them all stirred up and then go back to sleep in the back of the class. So I had to deal with it. So thankfully that dude was fired. But all that to be said, I think this year it's really set me up to where like the new woman I'm working with, Kayla is like, I've been able to have some of those conversations on the front end and I feel like we just kind of jive really well. But even with Fines last year, like Fines and I get along really great. We just do stuff differently sometimes. And so it was just about having that conversation. It's like, what do we want our classroom to look like? And then how do we get there? And what are some of our non-negotiables? And what are we willing to have the conversation about? Like state your case. Why do you think that dealing with students in this particular way is important? And so that's what I would have. I think your life is literally your success in life at anything is largely predicated on you having uncomfortable conversations, because then you can get through anything if you can learn to have uncomfortable conversations. So that's what I would recommend doing. And I think that starts with, hey, look, I think to just give you a little bit more, to not just like drop it there. I think that could be as simple as, hey, I'm noticing these behaviors in class and I'm wondering what we can do to help that out. I have a few ideas, but I wanted to make this like a decision that we make as a team and go from there and see what everyone kind of thinks. But I think that is like, and then really listen to what they're saying. And here's the next part. I think this is super important. I find that even if my wife and I are having a conversation about something and she's telling me what she thinks, instead of just thinking, halfway through how I'm going to rebuttal this or what my comeback is going to be. I instead make sure that I'm fully listening. And then I go, so what I hear you saying is, and I repeat it back to her, because sometimes folks, I think, don't understand fully what they're saying. And I don't think that we listen all the time. So like saying it back and then sharing your piece also as well. And then I think that will really, really help the situation. Javier Thompson is asking, how do you feel about grouping students within the classroom based off test performances? Should I group all the high schoolers together or mix them? So I group them like, so when we start reading this week, we're start our first novel this week, The Odyssey. I'm going to try a bunch of different strategies, but what I'm trying to find is like the best connection of certain students. So there'll be 3 students in a group because more than 3, there's always that one kid that doesn't do anything. And that's number 4, but 3 kids, it causes everybody to participate. And then it's like someone that is on the higher end of ability, someone who's really low and someone who's in the middle. That's what I'm kind of looking for. And test scores can be misleading a lot of times. I have a kid right now who I was told is on like close to the bottom of his class, according to like the STARS test or whatever the hell test they take. But what I found out was when he's in class and his summer reading project was like on point, like when he talks, when he writes. So my guess is he just like scrapped the test and just didn't do it well enough because he just didn't want to. But it's like taking observation too of like who's going to work well together and then putting those 3 people together. Lauren Fleming is asking, I teach 2nd grade. Awesome. My students' behaviors are attention seeking. I'm not sure what to do when they act out because the whole class gets off task. So this doesn't ever change, right? So this is like high school as well, where last week I had an issue with a student where we were doing independent reading and it took a lot to get everyone calm and ready to read because it is that class. So I get everyone, we're cool, right? Like I put the baby to bed is how I put it. And then some kid just starts reading out loud, like all super, he might even be watching this right now. Because I think you watched last week. You, my friend, just started reading his book out loud. So everyone starts laughing and it's gone, right? So what I did was I separated him from the group. I put him in the hallway and had him wait there for a moment. I got everyone else back under control. And then I went out and just spoke to that student individually. My guess is with 2nd graders, that would be even more intimidating. Like when you take the audience away, when you pull someone into the hallway and say, and it always has to be about the student's behavior, not the student. So a lot of people make the mistake of saying like, you're being bad, right? I've never told my children that they were being bad. I don't like your behavior. Your behavior sucks. This act that you did was stupid or not stupid, was like, not wise or whatever it was. You are wonderful. As a human being, you're wonderful. I love you so much. I just like, that will never end. Your behavior, on the other hand, sucks ass. And so having that, maybe don't say sucks ass to a 2nd grader. In 9th grade, maybe you can get away with that. But like having that conversation and explaining to students why also that is inappropriate, right? So I said, like, do you see how this class is? I somehow magically was able to get them to everyone's reading. Everyone has their book out. Everyone's chilling. And then you come in the house, creating a racket and wake the baby up. Like we can't have it. Do you see why that's an issue? And then breaking it down as far as I have to is kind of how I do that. But it has to be as much work as it is. I find like my major offenders and then I address them all the time, one-on-one, and tell them, just so you know, I think you're a wonderful human being, but I can't, this behavior is just not going to work in this class. And that's how I do it. Jamie Lopez is asking, how do you deal with other teachers who have very challenging personalities? Excuse me. Can you get water for me, please? But may I have water, please? I am the department chair for the ELA department at my school. Our school is in Watts, California, and our job is very hard. So I think Jamie, I'm kind of wondering, what do challenging personalities look like? So is it people that like are doing like not doing their job. They're like too heavy-handed in their decision making. Like, what does that look like? But I think maybe my answer would be the same. Which, hold on one second, because I'm verklempt right now. I need a musical interlude when I take a drink, where it's just like a little song comes on or something.
Yeah. Edit that in.
Like a jingle. I'm gonna tell Jake to put a little jingle in there for the podcast.
No.
So I think it comes down to those hard conversations, like talking to people about how do they see, like what do they think is going to work best, and why do they think that's going to work best? And then not being afraid to like push back against that or ask questions for clarity. Like, because there are teachers at my school that are like real into like yelling at kids, right? Or being like aggressively like angry or whatever. The problem with that though is that I just think that doesn't work for every kid. I think different kids require different sorts of discipline. And so what happens when, also I had a conversation with my friend Cho at school last week, and I have one student, right, that's being really, really well behaved in my class, right? So me and Kayla co-teaching a class, this kid is being great in our class, but he's not having success in his other classes. So Cho asks, well, what are you doing differently? And my first answer is always, I build a relationship. That's what I did from day one. I saw how that kid was going, and I made sure that we built a relationship with him. And I didn't have to do that for Kayla. She did it on her own. But, Cho decided, she was like, yeah, but there's got to be other stuff you're doing, because it's got to be systematic. Like not everything can just be a relationship all the time. It's just not doable for everyone. So then it made me think about like, well, where is he sitting, and how am I timing things that we're getting through in class, and sorts of things like that. So it's like, I think I went off the rails here a little bit, but like, I think that the short answer is having a conversation with those people about how do they want class to look? What do they think we can do to find success? And why those things? Like, I'm just interested like that, because that's different than the way that I would do it. I'm interested in like why you would pick that, and how you plan on implementing that. And then that eases you into a conversation that's just around like the work that you're doing. It's not like putting them on blast for something that they're doing. So yeah.
Oh shoot.
It was that was it right there. Anna is asking, I want to start posting the agenda like you suggested, but I'm bad at knowing how long things will take. I don't want to look like I know. Oh, okay. I'm doing a good job of reading this. I don't want to look even more like I don't know what I'm doing to the kids. Suggestions. Anna, I would say, if you're posting on the board, so on my Promethean board every day, I have like the pre-class and how long that's going to take, or sometimes I don't even put the times on there. But the idea here is that if you put up everything that you're going to do, and then you put how much time that activity is going to take, or how long the kids have to take, you could even say this should take about 5 minutes. If we need a little bit, if I'm noting that everyone's on point and they are doing what they're supposed to, and I see that you need another minute, done, bro. Like, or if this class is a little bit faster than the average and we're done in 4 minutes, that's cool too. But then I start my timer on my phone, just tell Siri to like start the timer for 5 minutes, making sure that she doesn't do it right now. And that works. So it's not like you not knowing what to do. You're saying like the average time that this takes students to do is this amount of time. This is what we're shooting for. And so you're like admitting that you don't know exactly what this is going to take on the front end, because how could you? Because even next year's class is going to be different at certain stuff. And then the year after that, they're going to be different at certain stuff. Like there's nothing set in stone in education almost ever. So it's depends on the class. So I think do it, or don't put the times up there and just tell them like, hey, you have this much time to do this next thing. And then we're going to move on from there. Anubis? Oh gosh, I'm really sorry. If you've watched this before, you know I can't say anyone's name. And Anubis, I think it is. Wolfgard is saying, Mr. Reynolds, I'm a student and getting into my teaching program. What advice would you give me for students that are becoming teachers? So I think my go-to answer for that is always start teaching someone somewhere something. So become a part of an after-school program. Just go to your local schools and say, hey, is there any, like, I'm going to school for teaching. Is there anything I can do as part of like after-school program? You're probably going to have to get like a background check and a couple of other things too. But once that's all cleared, you can start like working in after-school programs or tutoring students. So maybe you're tutoring at your local library or at local schools, or put an ad out online that says that you're tutoring, and that way you're making money also, because tutors around here are making like $30 to $50 an hour. So you could do that as well. But what you're doing there is you're going to start practicing the thing, right? You're not like, what you don't want to have happen, which often happens in teaching, is like, if I was going to take drum lessons, I don't want to like watch someone play drums and listen to people play drums and look at drums. I want to play drums, and that's how I'm going to get good at it. So I think that teaching is the same way. So just find some way to get connected, and that will have you in front of children, and you're working things out and you're figuring things out and you're trying to get kids to connect with the content. And so that, I think, is the move. Brennan Striegel. We'll just stick with Brennan. Brennan is saying, I am a first-year teacher and I'm worried about moving too slowly through material because I don't want to leave anyone behind. How do you keep a balance? And move when the kids haven't mastered? So that's a good question. It's tricky, right? I just want to like honor your question for a moment, because I'm always saying that like school is created for vanilla children when most classes are filled with like Rocky Road and mint chocolate chip, right? There's like very few vanilla kids in my room. That being said, I think it is teaching confidence. I don't know that it's always mastering the material. I think it's mastering, like, do you know, like, are we getting better as a whole? Are we feeling confident? Are we moving forward? Is the needle still moving in the right direction? So like this week when I teach exposition, if at the end of the week, everyone doesn't have a very, very clear understanding of what that is, and when we go like deep into it and what that's going to look like, I can't just stop and stay there and then week after week after week, because other kids are going to master it and they're going to move on. So I think it's building confidence in those students and saying like, all right, we didn't 100% get this. Now look, I say that knowing fully well that like the next thing might be based on that. So what do you do now? Like when the next thing's based on that and the next thing's based on that. I don't know. I'm just thinking of it in terms of like math or science. Like English, you can kind of get away with that, but I don't know that I have a really good answer.
There is an answer for public school, unfortunately. Like, I just think I take Birdie for an example. He's like a slower learner, and now with homeschool,
you're able to go at his rate.
Right, I'm able to go to his rate, but now what I'm doing is I'm plugging those holes on base skills that he never mastered. So I am working backwards, but I have the ability to do that as a homeschool mom. But in school, I don't think that you can all the time, and that's the hard part, is because our system just isn't set up that way. And
so I would say I would make sure to let parents know, like, your student is struggling with this, and here's some resources or websites or things you can do at home. I think it's making sure that students are connected to like tutoring or something outside of school, or making yourself like even available. And the last thing I want to do is like put more on teachers to do. So I think that's like my answer. There's not a perfect answer for that. And I'm wondering like, if anybody else has an idea on what to do with that in the comment section, like if you have a student that is not mastering content, like how do you keep moving forward to class when that student doesn't master the content, especially if that content is like one thing's built on the next, on the next, on the next. So I'm just wondering if anyone has an answer for that in there. Welcome to This Amazing Life is asking, what should you do if you find out a student is suicidal or administering self-harm? There was a student caught doing that. I think One,
wait, first of all, I want to preface because they were talking in the chat about that still. She says, I'm not a teacher. There's someone at my school with that, and I want to know how to help them. That's someone at their school that's dealing with that, and I want to know how to help them. And then they also said they do have a school counselor, but I don't feel totally comfortable talking to them.
So, well, and that's the thing with school counselors a lot of times is like school counselors, although well-meaning, there's too many students and not enough school counselors. So they don't have enough time to build authentic like relationships with students. And then when they don't do that, when you have to send someone, it's like they don't really know that person. So you're really asking them to talk to a stranger. And a lot of times those conversations can feel clinical. And I'm not saying that about all. Like I've worked with schools like that I've gone and spoken at that have like a counselor that has like maybe 10 kids that they look after, which is like freaking amazing. So how do you deal with that? I think it is one has to be connecting them with a counselor, right? Even though I just said that other bit. And this is why, because the counselor will have connections to resources that will really help students, whether that is a psychologist or going to see seeing a therapist or seeing some sort of group counseling or getting a psychiatric evaluation, like those, there's like certain things that need to be done that could really help that student and give a better picture of like what's actually going on here. Now, I've had students in the past that I found out were cutters or were have attempted suicide or that were really kind of like in that dark place that I've told the counselor about and they've done their thing. And I just make sure that I follow up with them. Look, I think the bottom line is it's about making the invisible visible. It's about taking kids that feel like no one sees them, no one cares. And if I did this thing, it's not going to affect anyone anyway. And then talking to them or giving them someone to talk to, and that changes things, right? So what you're not doing is solving the problem. It is impossible. You cannot make someone else not suicidal. You can't make them better. If they're depressed, you're not going to make them undepressed, whatever it is, right? The opposite of depressed. What you can do, though, is provide a space over and over and over and over again for that person that they feel comfortable in, that they don't feel like they're bothering you. And I tell kids all the time, if a student comes to me and tells me that they are even depressed, right? Or they're really, really sad lately, I tell them, I want you to know that I'm so honored that you would share this with me. Like it is literally like it is a gift that you're giving me, that you would trust me with this information. And I want you to know that even if we don't speak for 3 weeks, if I don't see you again for 6 months, because you're feeling better, you can always come back to me. It is never a nuisance. I will always make time for you. And I think that letting people know that is important. And I don't want to go on this too long, but I just think back to when my mother passed away. I was barely 22 years old, and my mom died, and everyone was there for me, from the jump. You get flowers and food sent to your house and gifts and stuff for a week. And then everybody else goes back to their daily life. And then you're still just stuck being sad for the next decade. And there were friends that I felt like they just didn't want to hear me talk about it anymore. When they'd say, "Hey man, how you doing?" It's well, I'm doing better, but I'm really still kind of stuck on this, or I'm really just feeling sad today. And it's it's letting people be sad and feeling like you don't have to fix it, but you can just let them know they're not feeling sad alone. Sit down in the mud with them is the way to do it. Next question. This is the same question. You didn't give me a new question, dude. I think there's one 2 under there.
There is.
Got it.
You could have got your own question.
I could have got my own question. Bearded Disciple is asking, has such an interesting name. What does that name mean? That's what I want to know. Can you put that in the thing? Because I just am
unless it's private and you don't want to.
It's his profile name. It can't be private.
Sure it can. The meaning behind it.
I just think it could be real cool.
It probably
sounds like a band name. We're Bearded Disciple. How do you get students engaged when they don't enjoy the material and subject that you teach? I think by helping them realize why they have to learn it. One, it is teaching through a lens of something they care about, right? So whatever, you find out what your students are interested in. You give out like a sheet that says like, hey man, what do you like? And then when you find out what those things are, you teach the Odyssey through, like the Odyssey is just the hero's journey, which is Star Wars, which is every Marvel movie ever made, which is every DC movie ever made. It is every hero movie ever made. And so find out that everyone likes Marvel and you teach it. It's like comparing Odysseus to Tony Stark, right? Whatever. Then I think it is reverse engineering why you need to know this. It can't be because it's the test or because it's important, because in life you're going to need to know this. Why do I need to know this? Why is reading so incredibly important? Why is learning to write, learning to voice my opinion, learning to listen to the opinions of others, why to public speak? So in my class, these are things we work on. They are important because, and then I list the reasons. Or I say, what do you want to do in your life? Like, what's the dream, man? And then when kids tell me that they want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a plumber, and they're like, I'm going to be a construction worker. I don't need to know how to read and write. Bro, you 100% need to know how to read and write. And here's why. And then that's important. So what you're doing is connecting what they're learning to something in the real world. The worst thing you can do is teach algebra and say, it's going to be on the test. You're going to have to know this in college. How are you going to go to algebra 2 if you don't know algebra 1? If I don't care, then I'm not going to do it. But if I know that, like, I think algebra is like the Karate Kid. I think algebra is like Danielson painting that fence for 2 long days and sanding the floor and all that stuff. And then Mr. Miyagi is like driving him crazy. And Danielson's like, what the hell am I painting? Why am I sanding the floor all the time? I'm not learning karate. And he goes, oh yeah, watch this. And then that whole scene, I think that is algebra. But I think you have to unpack it sometimes. Like if Mr. Miyagi never told Danielson why the hell he was sanding the floor, that movie would have been a lot different because Danielson would have left and just continued to get beat up by Johnny for the rest of his life. So that's what I'm thinking of. Bearded Disciple said, I am a Christian. That's what I was figuring. And I write blogs on Christianity and apologetics. It's my blog name. I have a beard. I like Jesus. That's about it. That's kind of what I was thinking. I love it. Fantastic, man. What's the name of your blog? You should put your blog name out there. Oh, duh. I'm so stupid. He literally just told me that.
You just read.
So yeah, you should check that out. Cool, man. Thank you. Oh, bro, you always crush me with your name on here, but I really like your profile picture because it's like a skeleton with a suit on. Bro, I can't. This
Just
guy.
do the question.
Yeah, all right. So I know. I just want to. I want to know people's names.
What is my name?
How do you say that?
I don't know.
All right. This is for the bearded suit guy. Hey, Reynolds, I'm glad to be available again and watching this. I'm glad you're here too, man. Quick question. How do I help my students to improve their speaking skills during the class time? What kind of activities can I do? I think one of the ways I get students to read more is a couple of ways. One, having them write about something that they know so that it's not like connecting it to the book or something else. Like it's just like talking about something that you already know. 2, talking about yourself, because that is the thing that you know better than anything else in the world. So, and easy questions like, what is the dirtiest you've ever been? What's the furthest away from home that you've ever been? What is that one thing when you walk into your house and your mom's cooking or your grandmom's cooking and you're like, yes, like whatever that food is. What is, what if at the beginning of your movie, that if they made a movie about you, what song would be playing to open that movie up? And then being able to share about yourself and then share about, like, have the students share about themselves. The other thing that I do that is incredibly useful is playing music behind what students are reading or saying in class. So there's like, if I know, so last year, somebody told this story that was like supposed to be sad. It was like, they got in trouble for doing something dumb. And then their mom, like they were in trouble and then they like missed out on some stuff. And it was like, they wanted us to like be sad, but it was like, dude, you did something like blatantly like wrong. Like, why would we feel bad? So I said, would you do me a favor and just say that story again. And I played sad music underneath of it. I just go on YouTube, I type in sad music instrumental, or you find like action music instrumental or adventurous music instrumental or depressed music instrumental. And then you play the music because the kids often tell the same types of stories over and over and over again. It's always like the time at the soccer game when we won, and it was because of my game-winning goal at the end. So you put music behind that, and I swear to you, it changes everything when they're reading. And that it creates engagement because other people want to do that as well. What you got, dude?
He said that he's 32 students. How can I listen to all of them and help them improve in 60 minutes?
So I think it is breaking it down and having them do it like it's not everybody every single day, but it's because that's a lot of kids in one classroom.
What if it's every day? You just do a little every day.
Yeah. So like when we do journal entries, I have like my 25, 28 students in a classroom. We'll do like 5 kids a day. And then that's all the fun thing about that too, is like, you're not making anyone go, but by the end of the week, maybe you say everyone has to go once by the end of the week. And then it's like, I think you're also, it doesn't get old. So like I love when we're in the middle of something awesome and I see we're going to run out of time, or like I get to the end of my lesson and then it's like the bell rings and kids are like, oh, like we don't want to go to the next class. And it's like, yes, that's exactly what I want. So that's what I would suggest. Aaron Johnson is asking, do you do weekly themes in your class? If so, how do you mesh them with students, or are themes more of an elementary thing? I don't do themes. I do like units of stuff. And then each week I do dial in on like one thing, right? So like whether that's this week is exposition and the hero's journey is like something we're really going to talk about a lot this week and really break it down and connect it to the story that we're reading. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what that would look like in elementary school so that I could like speak to that more.
Are themes when they do like, I don't know. I think of like when people do those like room transformation things. Is that like a theme?
It could be. Yeah. It's like you're kind of focusing in on one type of thing. Yeah, I feel like I don't have a good answer for that. Does anyone else have a good answer for that? Anyone on the side, I'm wondering if you have like how do you introduce themes and how do you roll those out during the week, and like how do you work with those in your school? Because I don't.
It says how do you mesh them with your standards?
How do you mesh them with your standards?
Do you have an answer to that?
I don't, because I don't.
Do themes?
No, I think it's more because I don't look at the standards as much. And here, look, let me break that down for a second, because that sounds like I'm being wildly incompetent. I know what my students need to learn. Like I've just been teaching the same thing for so long that I don't look at standards so much anymore. I look at what students like. I look at like achievement gaps. I look for where kids are floundering and what they're not good at. Or what they need help with. And then that's where I kind of dial that in. And, you know, the tricky part about this is this. In my school, I have a lot of autonomy. So I'm allowed to do what I want. My pace, like, look, it's expected that I read like 4 to 5 novels a year. But if I told my department head, who's this really wonderful woman, that I don't like, that I'm going to do, even I think if I went in and said like, hey, I'm going to knock 2 novels off, and we're going to do 3 this year, but we're going to go a little bit deeper, or I think the students need the help, and this is where I think I can get them to at the end of the year, like I have a plan, I think she would be 100% down with that. So, and this year, that's kind of what it's going to look like, because we're trying to introduce more secondary, like supplementary materials, and like comparing and contrasting things, and like not just reading a book, but like reading poems or short stories that go along with that book. So that's something I'm trying to do more of. And I think that is something that like I'd get away with. So it's tricky for me to say that, because like, although the standards are important, I mean, it's like what standards are more important this year than others, because students come in with certain strengths and certain weaknesses this year. And every year is a completely different crapshoot. Like like I said, there's no silver bullet. So it's tricky. I thought I just saw someone drive the wrong way down our street. It is possible sometimes. Summer Tate. Summer Tate. Have I not seen that name in a while?
Yeah, I don't. She was on last week, I think.
Oh, was she?
It's been a while before that. It's multiple questions.
Okay, got it. So Summer is saying, I am dealing with a colleague who thinks I, quote unquote, went over her head by advocating for my newcomer students and the ELL department, which is stretched. Which is stretched thin. Everyone else who knows the situation thinks that I was being helpful and in no way going over anyone's head. She made a scene in front of the others during lunch last week and has been ignoring me and not returning my emails regarding our shared students. I'm trying not to involve admin as best I can, and trying to be as professional as I can. Any advice? I would say, gosh, it is so interesting to me, and I do this myself, where we think we know what other people's intentions were, and how often when we're wrong, it was just like, well, how did I get that story in my head to begin with? Whenever I think I've wronged someone, I like to go to them and say, we need, I don't want to say corner someone, but maybe I just jump in the passenger seat of their car on their way home, and then I just make them drive with me in there. But finding time to say, no, this cannot happen like this. We need to talk about it because I want to hear what you're thinking and feeling about this. And then what you're doing is allowing, this isn't you blaming them or you confronting them necessarily in that sort of way. It's this is what I'm seeing, and I want to know how I made you think, or what you're thinking, or how this is making you feel. And then laying it out look, this is how I saw what was going on. I by no means meant to hurt your feelings or to go over your head or something like that. Having that dialogue, it allows a space for you to work it out. And I wouldn't look for perfection after that, but I just know that, look, man, I even have situations in my life now where there's people I know that I have to talk to. I have to work things out. I just don't want to. But I know that when I don't do that, it doesn't ever go away. It's only through hard conversations that anything ever gets fixed. So I would practice having that, have that conversation by yourself, literally at home. There's something I don't know, you're a little weird, and you're just having a conversation out loud with that individual. What that allows you to do is see it ahead of time. And then I typically meditate on those things. And I literally will sit there and think of different ways this scenario could go. And then if it does go a different way, how can I handle that? So now I'm prepping myself for the actual event. I'm practicing for it. And then letting them know, leave a note in their mailbox, or something that they, or find where they are and say, we need to handle this. And I think that that's the way to go. I find that when people know that I don't let anything go, I don't sweep it under the rug or brush it to the side. They know that if someone's talking crap about me and I'm going to confront them about it, people do a lot less talking crap about me because they know that I'm going to make it awkward for them, because I'm going to I'm going to make them have the conversation. You don't just get to say something in passing. It's no, now we're going to have the conversation. And that makes people think twice about kind of acting out like that. Because they don't get to just drop the microphone. You're pulling out a number of note cards with numbers all over them.
Do what you're doing.
Okay. I just,
pay attention to me.
It looked okay. I won't pay attention to you with your colored note cards over there. Adam Law is asking, I had a lackluster, at times borderline miserable last instructional year. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. This year I'm having an incredible time. And while only week 5, I know when I'd like to know when the year stabilizes. Will it last? Will this last? So Adam, I think it can. I've had years with kids that were just horrific, and it was just tough the whole year. And then other years, it is it's not just the kids, but it's what groupings of children are coming into your classroom. So it's is it sometimes it's the right combination of ingredients that make something awesome in your class. I have a couple of classes like that this year, just like I have at least one, maybe 2 classes that are the wrong combination of children. And I'm oh no, every day this is a thing. Like we got to like figure it out every day. So it's about knowing that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't wait for the other shoe to drop. Like I think when we do that, it is very, very, very similar to like, I just read this in a book today. This woman was saying like when we are anticipating something bad coming or worrying about something, it's literally like hitting ourselves in the head with a rock to prepare that something might hit you in the head one day. Like I'm going to get ready for it. So I'm just going to practice this. And it's like, why? Stop punching yourself in the face and waiting for someone to punch you in the face. Like ride it out. It could be awesome. And tell those kids it's awesome. Dude, this year, we're only in week 5. And I'm loving this. This is going so well. And I feel I'm so proud of everyone. And this is going so great. Like let's keep going. Like, let's keep doing this. And I think that lets students know that you know that this is going great as well. What you got? Valerie Whitman is asking, hi, anyone seeing problems with kids and social media overuse? Yeah, everybody is. I think I think that having the conversation with your students and why they should be mindful of overusing social media is important. And look, I mean, my whole job, my whole second business is on like the whole YouTube thing is on social media. Like, I think there's good ways to use social media and there's bad ways to use social media, or there's like problematic ways, especially when you're growing up and you're putting too much stuff out there. And I just had this conversation with students the other day where it's like, dude, look at Kevin Hart tweeted something years ago and it came back to bite him, right? Because he wasn't mindful back then of like how or why or in the way in which he was communicating how he thought or felt. And the students need to be mindful of that. Like those pictures that you're putting up on Instagram, you think you deleted them, but you're literally a screenshot away from like someone having that picture forever. So, and then what ways can you use social media to empower yourself or others and have that conversation as well? Because I think sometimes teachers just like talk trash on social media. Like it's just this bad thing. And I don't think it's just a bad thing. I think it's a really wonderful way to connect with different people. So I would have that conversation with your students, like, but a full, like a round like a full conversation, round conversation. And not just like kind of one side, which I feel like a lot of schools go to. Oh my gosh, I really apologize. I'm not trying to get anyone's name wrong, but here it is. Sajari, I think that's right. Sagari is asking, changed my career last year, worked with 9th and 10th graders last year and loved it. So decided to become a teacher, got placed in 2nd grade this year and really want to quit. What should I do? Oh my God. How in the world did you go from 9th and 10th grade?
Right. Isn't that a different, like...
Well, it depends where she teaches also. So if she teaches like in a different country, like it might be a different. So in the US, like you're K to 6 and then I'm 6 to 12. Oh. So it's like, it depends. I could be a 6th grade teacher. Yeah. Yeah. So wouldn't that be wild?
Yes. You would be an awesome 6th grade
I think
teacher.
I would.
You'd be awesome just at any.
I low key love 6th grade.
With kids. That's just your gift.
I think I could be even wilder. Anyway, I don't know. So what do you do? What do you do with that, gang? What do you do with that, everyone on the side, when you are teaching 9th and 10th grade and you love it, and then you get 2nd grade? It's such a different animal.
I think you have to go talk to your advocate.
I would talk to someone.
This is
where
my gift is, and this is where I feel qualified and like led to be, because I really have something to offer that was.
And I think, but when you do that, if you have that conversation with your administration, if that's a possibility, is having a game plan. Like, this is why I think I'm good at this. This is why I am, like, this is what I can bring to this team next year by doing this instead. Because look, really, it does come down to gifts. I think, like, anybody, like, if you're a good teacher, I think you can teach anything well. Like, I think they could put me in, I could be a science teacher and I would probably do a pretty good job. But when your heart isn't in that place, it can be difficult. So I don't, this is like second or third question I'm a little stumped on. Yeah.
Talk to them about, like,
I would say this is not the place for me. And then does anyone else have any kind of like, yeah, suggestions for that? Like, what do you do when you're not teaching? I know someone out here has got to be like, you're teaching a grade that you didn't want to teach. I would also say, like, consider going to the Facebook group, because I feel like people in there would have an answer for that also. Somebody else has to have been stuck in that situation. Yeah. And I've had I've had to teach 12th grade before, but like never gone to elementary. And it's just so different. Like, I don't even know if I would know. It would feel like a brand new job. Mm-hmm. Like the way you have to structure things and organize things and do stuff. Yeah.
Bathrooms, tying shoes, all of that.
Yeah.
It's just they need self-care.
Lice. There's all kinds of stuff going on in elementary school I don't want to deal with. But the trade-off is puberty. That's what I deal with. That's what you want to do. Vomiting and peeing our pants sometimes on accident, or puberty. So I'm sorry that I don't have an exact answer for that. But I'm wondering if someone does and if they can kind of help that out. Brennan, what's up? Brennan is asking, not teaching related, but can you talk about your tattoos? I'm always wondered.
Wait, before you get into that,
yeah.
He asked something about place values, and I just wanted to like how to teach place values because someone wasn't getting it. I think this is a really good method because it's color coded and it's yeah.
So what am I explaining? So when teaching place values,
I color coded them, so my kids are learning place values. My kids
get my fingers out of there really well.
Place values, so I color coded them, and then you can break them down so they can see that the 5 and the 10 place is really a 50, or 107 for the 100 place, or 1,000, and so then you can go through and make all different combinations, and it's color coded for kids that can't tell the difference between the place values. There you go. That's my helpful mom homeschool tip. Go ahead, talk about your tattoos. You're making me feel awkward. Keep going.
Because I'm really in love with you right now, and I just love that you did that. Great job.
Thank you.
That stuff was stuck on the back of my leg, just so you know.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah, the pad that I'm sitting on is coming apart, and it just keeps balling up and sticking onto the back of my leg, and it hurts.
Ew.
Yeah, I thought I sat in gum one day, and then I was like, oh, no, it's my
butt pad. It's my butt exploding.
Pad. Yeah. Exploding butt pad. That's a good name for a band, too.
Oh my God, answer.
This evening, thank you for coming out. Exploding Butt Pad is here tonight with Bearded Disciple.
No.
Our bands are together. My tattoos are, so I have a bunch of tattoos. This is my arrow that I have with my wife. Where's your heart, dude?
Oh.
Didn't we show this recently? So she has a heart and I have an arrow, but her heart's missing a piece because she doesn't love me all the way.
The dog ripped it off.
The dog ripped it off when she had a scab. I have an arrow tattoo or anchor that's my Jesus tattoo on my skinny arm. It's the anchor that sets us free. And it's also like kind of an homage to my dad. And then I have these 2 faded tattoos over here. I got this one with my mom. My mom got a tattoo. So when I first got a tattoo, I was 18. My mom was in her 40s, never had a tattoo, but always wanted one. And I told her I was going to get a tattoo, and she was like, I'm going with you. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And she was like, I've wanted a tattoo my whole life. I'm going too if you're getting one. So then we both went together and got tattoos, and it was awesome. And then this is just this band that I got that I found somewhere in a Celtic book at one time, and I liked it, so I got it. And it was the 90s, so everybody got armbands. And that's it. I also have a tattoo on my belly button, but I'm not going to show you it. No, I made that one up. I don't have a tattoo on my belly button. I do have a bunch more tattoos that I would love to get, but I just don't have time anymore to do anything. So yeah. Jesse Brunette is asking, how do I keep teaching high school English fresh without using so much paper? Oh, that's a good question. Is it possible? What are some activities to use to engage students and keep them high expectations? Love your channel. Thank you so much. So I think without doing like worksheets and stuff like that, I use Google Docs. And look, our freshmen don't have computers. We're a one-to-one school, but the students don't get computers until they're in 10th grade because a lot of freshmen don't stay. So I guess that's the idea. We have to get like the computer cart, which I have to sign out ahead of time. And it's kind of a headache. But in that, I can use Google Docs. I can use Google Slides. I can teach a lot of things through those. They can do like research online. I use a lot of websites. Like when we create comic books, we use something called ToonDo, or I use Storybird, which is a company that I learned about because I did a video with them. So if you go on and you're interested in using them, I did it. And I'm their like face for their high school products on their website. So if you go on the Storybird and you look up high school stuff, it's me on there. I like that like kind of online content because it switches things up. I started doing a lot of posters last year where like instead of creating like a character chart on your desk, I was like creating them with those large pieces of paper, and then I'd have 2 students working, and we'd break it into sections. And once you broke it into sections, and I would give you like a template on how to do that, you would like maybe draw a monster at the top, like one of Odysseus's nemesis, and then like who is that character? What are their character traits? What cite evidence from the book that like shows that backs up your claims and stuff like that. And that just became more fun because they're out of their seats. There's something up against the wall. For kids that can't draw, I would teach them like how to like print something out and then put it behind the paper and trace it. And like that was really fun. I did a lot of Legos last year where instead of like talking about setting, we built quick settings. Like everyone got like a little, like those little green Lego base things. And then like, that's how big you got. And then you got a minifig and a handful of Legos and you had to make the scene. So make, where the plane crashed in Lord of the Flies, or make one of the houses in Fahrenheit 451. And like, let's talk about what this scene looked like and stuff. So that kind of stuff works as well. But what other resource? Like where I feel like, I think the other thing I would send you to is I think the New York Times has great stuff. If you type in New York Times lesson plans, they are free for teachers. You do not have to have a subscription. And what they do is they'll take like a New York Times article, they'll connect it to a video, they connect it to other like questions or worksheets or activities and stuff like that. So it's this kind of fully fleshed out activity that you could do. And I think Scholastic Magazine has good stuff too. And like, to be transparent, like I work with Scholastic sometimes as well. But because I do work with Scholastic, I found that they have resources like crazy and they have tons of good stuff. And I don't think all magazines do. I think some magazines just have stuff that sucks. But these seem like they were created with teachers in mind and not just like to have some kind of full magic. Like it's not just like a really like, anybody can paint a picture, but not all pictures are good. I think Scholastic's painting a good picture for which you can use to teach students. So yeah. Anna Kozil is asking, I'm struggling so much right now. It's my 3rd year of teaching and I'm getting more and more discouraged. Is it time to give up? I used to think that teaching is the only thing for me, and now I'm not so sure. Anna, I would say a couple of things. One, I don't know if it's something that you should give up on, but I think if someone in your school is having success, you can have success also. I also think that sometimes it just takes like, we get so wrapped up in all of our stuff, right? Let me break it down for you like this. Have you ever had a friend that you saw what they were going through and you thought, why don't they just do this? Why don't they try this? Why don't they drop that friend and get involved with this friend instead? Or someone in a bad relationship. Like it's so much easier for us to see other people's struggles and we feel like no one could look at our struggles that way. And so I think finding people to connect with that will allow you to do that and will be able to look at your struggles and help you with them is the move. So that can be a couple of different things. It could be inviting other teachers to come to your classroom and observe your students and observe your teaching, and then really be ready for some real feedback and some open feedback about what they are seeing. I think the other part of that is joining something like the Facebook group, where you can share some of the things that are going on. And then what you'll find in there on our Facebook group is that teachers that really want to help other teachers, like, because when you're, even now, like 3 years in, a lot more than a first-year teacher would know. And so when that first-year teacher is having issues, you can really help them out. So going on the Facebook group and doing 2 things. 1, trying to get help on what you're struggling with. And 2, helping people that are struggling, because that is going to give you, it changes your thinking. It reminds you that you actually know something. Me doing this every week is so good for me because it reminds me that I know stuff. It reminds me that I have some answers. Not all of them. There's been 3 questions at least tonight that I didn't really have an answer for, but it gives me that. And I think the last thing is, and I don't want to just like promote my services, but like, is doing mentoring. Like, so like signing up for mentoring, whether that's with me or someone through your school, to get like that one-on-one attention of like, here's actually what's going on. And then someone is going to say, okay, here's how I would handle that. I think that really, really helps as well. So that would be my short and sweet answer for that. Joshua is asking, Reynolds, thanks for all you do. I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. It's my pleasure to be able to do it. I teach 9th grade English, and I have several students in class that read at 5th grade level. What are some of the strategies in helping increase their reading skills? I think, Josh, one is figuring out why they are not reading on grade level. Like, is there some kind of like learning disorder there, or like dyslexia that's undiagnosed, something like that? So sometimes it's referring them to the special education department to get them tested so you can find out, like, is there some deeper lying or underlying thing that's happening that they need help with. The second thing is getting them, I think, like, so when we read the Odyssey, I have multiple versions of the Odyssey, and one of those is a graphic novel, which is really much lower level, but it allows students to engage with the content on a level that they can feel confident when they're reading. And I think the way you become a better reader, barring like if you have a reading, some sort of disability, right, or learning difference, that needs to be addressed specifically. But if it's just you haven't had a good teacher, you haven't read enough, reading more just makes you a better reader. Like, doing more jump shots is going to make you a better at doing jump shots. So getting books in front of kids that they're reading more and more and more. So whether that's independent reading or whether that's what you're reading in class, like having them read every day for a sustained amount of time, and then reading longer. So when you read, in the beginning, you're not reading as quickly as you will 20 minutes in. You start reading faster because you're getting used to that kind of running through things. Really helps. And then another trick that I've learned in the last year is, I was always told when I was a kid that you should never use your finger under the words. And then I found out about this guy, Jim Quick, who, if you're a teacher and you're not following Jim Quick, it's Jim Quick is spelled Kwik on Instagram, at least. His stuff is amazing. And he talks a lot about memory and helping students learn in different ways. But he was saying that, like, that is dumb. That teacher should have never told you that following with your finger actually can make you a much more fluid reader, because it's letting you know where to look and it's helping you hone in on what you're doing. And so that's just a couple of quick things that I do with my students. I think audiobooks are good too. Like, audiobooks help you grow with your vocabulary. They can help you. You can read along with something and listen to it at the same time is really good. And there's tons of free stuff, especially through local libraries. What was our local library use? Hoopla. I find tons of free stuff on there. I just download it on my phone. I hook up headphones or on my iPad, and I just have students listen to it in class while we're reading. Stacy is asking, I am a math teacher in a small high school. My students are drastically different grade levels in my class. I have been thinking about doing work at your own pace and working in small groups. Thoughts, ideas? Stacy, look, if you can get away with that, I would 100% do that. I just think of my friend Bridget, who runs the Lettered Classroom, and how she does the multi-age classroom, and how great that is for her students, that it's like everyone in her room at any given time is like working on their own thing at their table or desk or their area. And that's how they're kind of growing and at their own pace. So they're not feeling stupid because everyone else is on, division, and they're still subtracting. Like,
I think if you can do that, that's
I think if you can do that, it's the world. Mm-hmm. But it requires more work on your end. But my thought would be that as you go, that will get easier. Like, you'll be more in tune with what students need. So yeah, I would absolutely do that. And I'm wondering if anyone else has a thought about that, like if they would change that, like
Bridget's channel and like ask some stuff or email Bridget and see. Yeah,
so do this, Stacy, because I might see it before Bridget sees it. If you email me, and you're wondering about that, I would happily like tell Bridget to look out for, or just I'll send her the email so she knows to look out.
We'll be talking with her tonight.
Yeah, I have a meeting with her tonight also. But it's because I know like all of us get so many emails, it's like really gets bogged down. And so Edie, if you're watching this, Edie does my emails for me. She's my lovely like virtual assistant. And so Edie, if you can look out for that email, if we get that in, then we'll make sure that we get it to Bridget. So what do you got? That was a quick one because I didn't really have a long answer. Go figure. Jake, do the jingle.
On like 2 different Brennans, like, which is so crazy.
So there's a lot of Brennans out there. You know why? Because they're probably they're probably Irish Catholic, and we live in a very Irish Catholic town where they like making babies. That's my guess. I have no idea. I just made that whole thing up. What's up? I'm in 11th grade, and I'm in a program of school that lets me student teach. That's kind of awesome. I teach 6th grade world history on Wednesdays, and I teach my first lesson. Any tips? Thanks, and stay litty. That's what Cephas used to say all the time. I think, Brennan, I think remember how big of a deal it's going to be for those students that you're coming in, right? They're in 6th grade. And so being mindful of how much a word of kindness or of encouragement from you is going to mean to those kids. It would mean like more than a teacher saying it, because you're like a high school kid that they think is like, you're super cool. And then you go in there and you say something to those students like, hey man, just real quick, I think you did a really great job today. And I'm looking forward to coming in and seeing you next Wednesday. Or like, I saw that you were struggling with this a little bit, but then you kept at it. And I appreciate your tenacity. Like, good work, my man. Those little things just build confidence in students. And I think that confidence is the number one thing that's needed, not just in school, but in anything. Like, I wouldn't have met my wife if I didn't have some level of confidence. I wouldn't try to do business stuff if I didn't have some level of confidence. I wouldn't even have the ability to learn anything if I didn't have confidence. So what you can do, aside from just teaching, is help build confidence in students and make, again, invisible students know that they're visible, and then build them up. But here's the tricky part, is looking for students that really need it. So like, there's going to be kids that are crying for attention or are really good at what they do, or, whatever. It's looking for those quiet kids and looking for spaces and places in which to help build them up as well. What you got, dude? James Hoff is asking, I'm a senior in college and getting my degree in special education and general education early childhood. That is awesome. I am wanting to get into school counseling, but I'm wondering if I should start right after spring. Get into school counseling. I'm wondering if I should. James, I think that's a really like a personal decision in that, like, I'm not gonna veer away from your question. It's, where do you see yourself serving in a school? Because I think that's what it really is. I think it's a service that we're providing, like it's bigger than us. And so I think this takes time of you kind of sitting back and thinking about your career, thinking about the impact that you want to have on students and how you want to impact those students. And then what's that going to look like? Because I think that although I'm not a counselor per se, I do a lot of counseling. I would argue that I do more counseling than most school counselors do, because you're someone the students see every single day. My students see me in class 5 times a day. And then even when they're done my class, they all come back. I have rogue hair on the back of my neck. It's making me crazy. It's probably yours. So just know that, like, if you decide to go into the classroom, that opportunity is still going to be there. But I think it's just met with a lot less paperwork. Like, I get to talk to students, and students come talk to me on purpose because they know it's not going to be like this clinical interaction that they're going to have with a counselor, which sometimes happens. And I'm not saying all counselors are like that. I think I've met some great ones. And actually, the woman that works at our school is awesome. But just be mindful of that. Like, it's not going to just be, if you're a counselor, you're not going to be teaching, but if you're teaching, you're still going to be counseling and seeing like how that weighs out. So that's what I would keep in mind. Amanda is asking, I just made the transition from elementary school to middle school and their personal problems. And their personal problems are so emotionally draining. Oh, I get it. All right. How do you love them and also not get down about their problems? Amanda, because they're their problems and they're teenagers. And so I have to,
even teenagers.
I have to, I'm saying this like this because it's almost like I need to watch this myself. There's something called secondary trauma that I just learned about this year. I don't know how, I've been living it my whole life, but I didn't know that it was a thing. It is when you are dealing with folks who are going through particularly traumatic experiences, how that can take a toll on you. And that absolutely takes a toll on me. When I meet a kid whose parents just went to jail, whose someone got shot, whose someone grandmom is dying, like that, in helping those students, it can be draining for you. But what I do is try to build my joy up, build my love for the job up to a place where when I wake up in the morning, I'm praying, I'm meditating, I'm envisioning what I want my day to look like. So it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. Then on my drive to school, I'm listening to podcasts like, whether it's Joe Rogan can go either way. It's not a really good, like all the time, like going to school podcast. Impact Theory or the Tim Ferriss experiment or experience or whatever the hell it's called, or Rich Roll, or the Tony Robbins podcast. What that's doing is like filling me with all kinds of good stuff. And then right before I pull up to school, I put on like jams that I know are going to like pump me up, right? I need to go in at a certain state when I go to school, which is why my wife and I are always talking about, like, I can't talk about business or heavy stuff before I leave the house. I got to just fill myself up with all this good stuff. Then I go into school and I'm on a different level. And so when students are dealing with things, I am like not trying to match their energy. I'm trying to operate from a much higher place, and then I can help them from that place. And then knowing that they're going to be all right. That when you're a middle schooler, or like things are so end of the world, it's so overly dramatic. And it's like noting that in kids and not taking that away from them, but letting them know, like, you have to remind yourself that it's going to be okay. That like the breakup's not that big of a deal. That, you know, their mom yelling at them is not the end of the world. Like, and letting them know that you're there for them and that you love that they came to you. But like, or sometimes like I just tell kids, do you realize how silly this is, right? Like, this is like not that big of a deal. Like, okay, your teacher gave you an F and you're like freaking out about it, but like, let's like pull back for a second. Let me snap you out of your state for a moment. And sometimes that really helps kids. And it's through relationships that you learn in which way to interact with students. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just watching too much of The Dog Whisperer lately also.
No, I think I love I wasn't listening to everything that you were saying.
You weren't listening to all, babe.
Shocker.
Gosh.
I love when you usually explain scar tissue with kids, because I think that's such a great analogy.
That is a good idea. That I do. Thanks.
Yeah.
One of the things I talk to my students about is scar tissue. So I talk to them about when they ask me, I remember when Taylor Swift really first started getting big, and the students were like, what do you mean, Reynolds? What do you mean you don't listen to Taylor Swift? And so I listened to Taylor Swift, and she's talking about, I still remember the song. She wears short skirts and I wear sneakers. She's cheer captain and I'm on the bleachers. This whole song about like trying to win the boy that she loves. And I said, the reason I can't listen to that or choose not to listen to that is because I'm not in that space anymore. Like when you're a teenager and you break up with someone, it is literally the end of your world. It is the end of everything. Happiness is gone. The sky is black. I want to just stay in my room and listen to like sad music and put like too much mascara on my eyes. It's like the end of the world. But when you're older, you go through all kinds of heartbreak and you know how to brush things off. And the reason for that is not because it necessarily became easier. It's because you've built up scar tissue, and scar tissue is stronger than regular tissue. And so those things that I could identify with, or that I like touched my heart when I was younger, it doesn't happen as easily anymore. And so I think that that's what it comes down to, is having that conversation with students and letting them know that like you're building scar tissue through this, and that hurts, but it's like the same way as building muscle in a lot of ways. That one I got. What do you got for me?
Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead. Yeah, we're just about.
Let's get something else in. Yeah, I don't want to just end it. I know we got to feed children. Josh is asking, any high schools in Philly you could recommend? I'm a teacher and I'm thinking of moving back to the city. Gosh, there's so many schools now, man. It's like, I'm not necessarily a charter school advocate. I work at a charter school, but I think a lot of charter schools are really great. And I don't want to put anyone on blast, but I will say I am mindful as a teacher whether or not if I teach somewhere, do they have some sort of scripted curriculum? I am not into scripted curriculum. So like if somebody tells me what I have to teach them, when I have to teach them, what assessment I have to give them, when I have to give that assessment. And like, I just think that those ideas are created for one type of student. But what happens to all the students that don't fit into that mold? It's like shoving that round peg into a square hole. Like it just doesn't work. So I would do my research on those schools and see like if I think another telltale sign, and I'm not trying to put anyone out on blast, but like if schools give signing bonuses, there's usually a reason they want. It's not just they're kind and they want to incentivize teaching there. It's like, we need people, so we will give you $5,000 on the front end or $15,000 on the front end. Just for signing up, and people get all excited about that. But it's like, you have to ask yourself, why would you do that? So that's why I would be mindful of. Because I think it's not always the schools, it's the people that work in the schools. So I think my school has found a level of success because this sort of organic thing that's happened amongst the teachers, and we work really hard to work together. But I think that here's the problem. I think KIPP charter schools was a great idea, and they found a lot of success with that first school. But when you start replicating things too much, it's like Walmart was probably let's say the first Ross that ever opened up, or Marshalls, weren't a hot mess of disaster. If you shop in there, right, you know that there's stuff all over the place. Probably the first one was lovely. They had things on shelves and it was very neat and clean. But then you kind of make a million of those stores and it's different. McDonald's was probably delicious meat at the first time that they opened that up. And now it's like, I'm not real sure what I'm eating there. And it scares me sometimes that I could find a French fry under my seat 6 months later and know that I could probably still eat that thing. And not only will it taste the same, it will have the same effect on my body. So be mindful of that. Like, make sure you do your research on that. Dylan is asking, any advice for checking in emotionally with students in ways other than saying, hi, how are you? I think asking things like, what'd you do? Like simple stuff, right? But you're looking for cues. You're not looking for answers. What'd you do this weekend? What do you like? Let me ask you a question. What do you do when you're not in school? Like, what's your number one thing to do? Or what is an ideal night at home? Or like, and so what you're doing there is like, if someone says there is no ideal night at home, or when my dad's not home, or when my mom works late, or when we're finally all home together, you're seeing these little clues that kids are leaving to give you a sense of like what's going on. Or if here's a good piece of advice. If I am dealing with a student and I know something's going on because they have it written all over their face, I talk to them in private, after school, before school, during lunch, in the hallway, whatever. Hey, what's going on? Nothing. That's the answer I always get. Nothing. No one ever is forthcoming. And I know they're going to tell me what's going on because I know how to get it out of them. I always say, look, I can tell something is going on and I will not force you to tell me anything. You don't have to answer any of the questions I'm about to ask you, but I'm just wondering, is it a in-school issue or an out-of-school issue? Because if it's in school, I just want to be mindful of like what I'm like, if something else is happening to someone else too. So if they say out of school, is it like a girlfriend situation or a boyfriend situation, or is it a parent situation? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, right? It's a parent situation. Oh man, mom or dad. And then what you're doing is you're providing you're making it safer because it's these seemingly innocuous questions that are allowing you to whittle it down like one bit at a time to finally get to what you need to know. And then you can say, okay, then you find out, my mom yelled at me this morning because I didn't do this thing, and now she's mad at me, and she said she's going to kick me out if it happens again. Okay, now I can actually have a conversation with you about it. So it's just asking those little things that are chipping away at stuff. And then, oh, I just said chipping away. But it's allowing you to get to the good stuff. And it's like the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop. And it just takes a minute to get there. And that's how you do it. Last one, because I got to go eat dinner and I have a meeting after this too. Mr. Wilson Social Studies is saying, do you let your students call you bro or dude? This is an interesting question because I have a lot of students that I have this year. Kids try to call me CJ all the time, and I'm like, bro. If it's older students, I don't mind. Like I have kids that call me Ren all the time, and there's teachers that are like, what did you call him? It's Mr. Reynolds. Or back when I worked in Camden, I would get called Mr. all the time. Mr. And I used to get pissed off and I would not answer. I would say, nope, you will call me Mr. Reynolds. But when I thought about it, it was like, that's like, why is that important to me? Like, why am I like, is it a life skill? And if I don't feel like someone's trying to disrespect me, like, am I okay with that? So then I thought, someone brought to my attention that if you are Hispanic, if you're speaking Spanish and you call someone señor, right, is the same thing as Mr., and that's not seen as something that is offensive to any, like that's common. Señor, like, so if someone's calling me Mr., it's really just the English version of señor. So I was okay with that. I think it comes down to explaining to your students why or why not you don't want to or are okay with them calling you that. So if someone calls me bro, I don't really mind. But if kids call me CJ and I know they're trying to be a smart ass, it's like, I always go like this because they read way more into what I'm saying here than I actually mean. I go, listen, just because your mom calls me CJ doesn't mean you can call me CJ. And then just because you said something about their mom, it immediately becomes, what are you trying to say about my mom? It's like, no, like adults call each other by their first name. Your mom wouldn't come in and call me Mr. Reynolds. Like, it would be all right if she didn't. But it's then talking to students about, look, I get that you think we're close and that you think you can call me that. Sometimes, like, this is one of the conversations I have. When you go to work somewhere or when you meet, if you're dating someone and you meet their dad or their mom, you don't want to just go in calling them by their first name. It can be seen as disrespectful. And I didn't make these rules, right? It's just like this common thing that we do as people. So breaking that down, being like, be mindful of the fact. Now in school, it's going to be seen like, I don't want some other teacher to come at you because you're calling me that. So like, let's keep it professional. I want you to act professional in this setting. And so Reynolds or Mr. Reynolds or Ren, it's all fine. But that's kind of like where we're coming at. I think it always comes down to having the conversation with students and letting them know that like, you can't call me anything you want, but like, if it's within reason, like it's fine. So kind of that's how I handle it. So look, gang, I'm going to go. But before I go, I want you to know that next month, when am I in Akron? Because that's one that people can go to. I'm speaking at the Teach Better Conference.
I think it's November 5th.
November 5th, the Teach Better Conference. It's a 2-day conference. It's really cheap because they're trying to make it cost effective for teachers. I'll be there with Tal Thompson, who was in the
9th.
The 9th, November 9th. I'm there with Adam Welcome. I'm there with Dave and Shelley Burgess, like a lot of really, really interesting people that I'm really looking forward to this because it's a lot of folks that I've been following along with for a while on social media. Now I get to go see what they're up to and hear them speak and stuff like that. So that is in Akron, Ohio. And look, even if you're flying there, I think tickets are like $300. It's like really not expensive to fly to Akron, Ohio. So if you're into that, that's the gig. Tracy Pinter will be there also, and she's in here on the stuff. And
She left already.
she did.
Yeah.
Tracy Pinter,
Her
not.
mom just got home at the hospital. I mean,
Oh,
I
all right.
break.
That's a pretty good reason. Thanks for ruining everything by saying that because it made me seem like a jerk. Yeah, gang. If I can do anything else for you, please show up next Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. The earlier the questions get in, the faster we can get to them. And the Facebook group is there. The mentoring's there. The book will be here soon enough. I had someone come in. I got the rough covers for I might put that in the Facebook group.
Ooh.
maybe I'll put that in the Facebook group, like the mock-ups that I got for the book cover, and see what people are thinking about that.
Yeah.
I think I will do that. And that's everybody. Hope you have a great week and Sunday. Peace. Weird ending. And because I got to hit all this stuff. And there we go.